I feel like I'm making lots of videos today, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make a video just making my bread. So I make a type of focaccia bread, but I don't make it the normal way. Okay, so the normal way to make focaccia bread is to use like normal flour, and I like to use this remilled semolina flour. In other words, durum wheat, but it's semolina, and it's good for pasta. And in fact, you can make your own homemade pasta that way. And the great thing about focaccia bread is you can just stick whatever you like in there. I find fresh chives go really well, so I've got a whole ton of them. Rosemary goes nicely on top, only when it's fresh. For some reason, it just doesn't taste as nice when it's coming out of those bottle things. That's your yeast. I think for the first time I'm going to try a little bit of cinnamon, and I'll just use this grinder here to grind it into bits. I always like to use my pink Himalayan salt. I'll be honest with you, like Himalayan salt has got like 80 trace properties that make it slightly more healthy than normal salt. There is an increased level of other things though. You can sometimes get some Himalayan salt that has an increased level of other stuff that makes it not as good. But I just got this one and hopefully it'll be fine. It's kind of coarse salt, which is actually what I like. I like for the focaccia bread, it's coarse salt. I'm going to stick some raisins in. So I just got your typical this Sun-made raisin brand. And then I also bought the other day this for the first time. I don't know where it comes from. Let's see. Carapelli. It sounds Italian, but the reason I bought it, because I was in this shop called what is it called? Winco, which I've never heard of before, but I saw that it said October 14, 25. Now usually when you go to the store, it doesn't tell you when it was made, right? It tells you, what it tells you is when it's best before, right? And that's rubbish, right? That's terrible, right? So this is the best before date, 2027, right? Well, it's March 2026 as I film this, okay? And that means that you probably are using olives for olive oil that have been harvested, years back, and they finally got to your shelf. But the fact that it actually has a date when they've made the olive oil, and this is the production date, and it's clearly labeled, this is the harvest period. So it was 2024-25 harvest period, and then it went that batch of olives was produced 2025. So it's probably 2025 harvest and 2025 production, because they usually produce it fairly quickly afterwards. But I like that. So that means October, November, December. So it's 6 months old. So it's only 6 months old, and I know you might say, well, isn't it better to have something that's only 2 months old or 1 month old? Maybe, but honestly, I just want to go to the supermarket and buy something. I don't really want to go to some specialist store, and this was the only one that had that. Every other olive oil I saw, probably, I picked up all of them, I think, and none of them had a production date on them, so I thought it was very dodgy. But you really do get, it's better tasting, is also better for you if you get, because olive oil, just like any oil, loses its properties over time, so it actually loses its health benefits over time. Now the only other flour I'm going to use potentially is this one, which is some pizza flour. Okay, for chewy, crisp crust on your home oven. So this is very finely made. King Arthur Baking Company. I never even saw that. That's so funny. Established 1790. That's super fun, you know. But anyway, Neapolitan style 00 pizza flour. So this is very fine flour. But the reason that you combine it is because this by itself doesn't give as much of a rise. Yeah. So I'm going to be using, these are the only ingredients apart from water. And for water, I'll just use spring water. So that's all of the ingredients. I don't want to use water out of the tap because it's not as good or healthy or enjoyable. It's just not as tasty. But those are all of my ingredients there. And let's just see where this comes from. Does it say? It says olives are not produced using biotechnology. That's good news. Extra virgin, distributed by Dioleo USA. I don't even think it says where it's from. But it says from sustainable production. So I really like that. Firenze. Is that a place? If it is a place, it's an Italian place. Firenze. Carapelli. That's definitely Italian olive oil, I would imagine. Anyway, so those are all of your ingredients. It's so simple to make focaccia bread. It's just so tasty. So let's get going. Enough of me talking. Okay, so let's go then. What I'm just going to do is I'll just put some semolina flour in there. How much do you use, you might say? What's the recipe? However much bread you want, I guess. So put that in there. Right, and then, sorry, really difficult to open that. Let's put a little bit of this, a little bit of this. Well, and then we'll get some salt. Now, technically speaking, you don't want to put your salt in first, and there's a reason for that. The reason is that the salt and the yeast doesn't like the salt, okay? So if you can put your salt in later, that's better. Anyway, stuck that in there. I'll chop these chives and a little bit of rosemary. Most of the rosemary is going to go on top. But yeah, and I'll chop maybe the raisins too. Okay, so that's all chopped now. So I've got all my chives, some of my rosemary chopped, and these raisins chopped. I didn't use all the raisins. It occurs to me that there's not enough flour in there for all of that. So I'm going to stick some more flour in because I think it will need more. The reason I chopped the raisins is because it's to release the sugary flavours into the bread, and also the sugar helps the yeast to make it rise. Alright, so let's just stick all of that in there now. Okay, I've realised I didn't actually put the oil in, so I'll put the oil in first. You can make like a well. Let me just use a thing. You can just use your thumb, but I don't want to get my sort of full of flour at the moment because I'm holding my phone. Yeah, you can make the well and you put the oil in like that. How much oil should you use? However much you want. How much do you like olive oil? The oil makes it stick, so you're going to use a little bit. Okay, that's enough. And I also, that's the cinnamon there, so I'm going to mix it up actually to begin with, and then I think I'll add these afterward. Do I want to do that? Yeah, let's go for it that. So let's just, I'll mix it up now. And what am I using to mix it? I will be using, not that, probably this one, like a spoon, a wooden spoon. Actually, let's just do it here. And plenty of oil, olive oil, right, oil, and you can do the same with water because you need some water, so that will really make it start sticking. So as you can see, I don't measure out anything. I use a little bit of water and then I mix it, see if it comes together, and if it doesn't, I use a bit more until it does come together. And if you want to know what coming together means, it means that it looks like this. Okay, that's coming together. Now I also need to put in my yeast at this point, so I'll put that in there and then mix it up. So there's the yeast in there, and now I'm just going to mix it out again. So the consistency you want it at is so that it's soft, but it's not sort of sticking to the bowl. So you can see that's not really sticking, but it is super soft. Okay, so now I think I'm going to add these raisins, and should I add the chives as well? I don't. No, let's just add the raisins to begin with. Okie dokie, so yeah, I let it, I just let it sort of air out for a minute. Now that is not rising very much. I didn't give it very long, I will be honest with you. Let me just Google whether or not it's a good idea to add chives to yeast, because I know salt will mix with yeast poorly. Let me just see. Okay, well, it said basically, I looked it up on ChatGPT, which is sometimes wrong, in fact often wrong, but nevertheless for this sort of thing it's probably right, and it said chives don't contain anything that will meaningfully stop yeast from working. So I've added the chives, and I will now knead it for maybe 10 minutes or so, and then we will leave it to rise. Okie doker. So now I've been going for about 10 minutes. You can start to see it's sort of like getting a bit shiny, and that's what you want. And I think I'm going to go for a little bit more, because 10 minutes just doesn't feel right, you know. I feel like usually I need for about 20 minutes. Maybe I'll just go for 5 more. Maybe 6, no, maybe 4. Maybe 4 more minutes. Okay, I'll just do 4 more minutes, and then I'll stick it in there. While we're at it, let's just oil the oil, right? Because you don't want it to stick to the sides. So I'll get some of this stuff, and I'll just do that. But I'll do it all over when I've got my other hand free, and then we'll stick it in there and let it rise for a couple hours, or maybe we'll see how long it takes. Okay. Okie dokie, so here we go then. You can see it's all nice and shiny. And I stuck it in there. So now, oops. Now we just leave that on, cover it and leave it to rise for maybe a couple of hours. I'll check on it periodically and then come back. Okay, so let's just see how much we've got left on our timer. Hey Google, how much time have I got left on my timer?
You have 9 minutes left on your timer.
Hey Google, how long was my timer for?
Your timer was for 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Okay, so it was a 1 hour 10 minute thing. I've got 9 minutes left, so basically it's been an hour rising. Let's see. Oh, so that's a lot bigger than what it was. Yeah, that's basically doubled in size, which means that we can go on to stage 2, which is to do it again, but this time I'm going to have to add the salt in. So I need to open that. And how much salt should we put in? Well, we don't want to put too much in, so I'm just going to use a spoony spoon. Maybe that much. Not too much. So I've put a heck of a lot of salt in there because I like salty. I like the taste. So you just put in however much you like. In fact, maybe I put in a bit too much. I'll grab that and I put like a whole, isn't even a teaspoon. I'm just going to scoop some salt out because I don't want to over salt. I have over salted these in the past and they're not very nice. But equally, I do like salt, you know, I just like a salty, especially in my bread. Yeah, okay. So now we take this, and I'm going to do this, okay, and I'm gonna go over like that, I think. And just knead it for maybe 10 minutes or something, I don't know. Hey Google, set a timer for 10 minutes.
Timer set for 10 minutes.
Okay, be back in 10. Okay, so I kneaded it for 10 minutes, I oiled the pan, I wiped off all of the salt that was on the side of the pan and I stuck it back there. So it's gone down again. Let's leave it for another hour and see where we get. And then about half of an hour in, I'm going to set, well, maybe 3/4 of an hour in, I'll set the oven to be on so that it's nice and warm. We can just stick it right in. Okay. Hey Google, set a timer for 1 hour. Okay, see you in an hour. So here we go, it's been rising for another hour now, and this has been on for 20 minutes. I'm just going to put it on here, but I'll cover it in oil first, and then we'll do the final bit with the rosemary. So there it is on there. I'm just going to dig in with my fingers and sort of stretch it a bit, because the pan, we had to do the holes anyway for focaccia bread. So may as well stretch it while we're putting holes into it. Okay, so there we go. Lots of nice holes. Okay, and then I'm going to cover it with this. and then I'm going to put some salt on top. In fact, you know what? I'm thinking I'll put the salt on first. Okie dokie. So there we go. I've got now. The way I do it is I spread these out. I don't like planting trees or anything. And then one little bit of oil left, and that's ready to go into the oven. So let's go. The oven is at 200 degrees centigrade, which is 425, I think, Fahrenheit. And I'm just going to put it in there for, let's say, 14 minutes to begin with. Okay, so it's just come out of the oven. It's actually not just come out of the oven. I've been waiting for, well, a good 20 minutes. You might say, why have I got it on this? Because I don't have a rack. That's why. So I'm sort of, I'm cooling it down like this. But look at that, all golden and delicious. And shall I open it on camera? I think I shall. Let's get one of these. Put it over there. Get steamed up a bit. It's going to be a bit difficult. To open this on camera, because I'm trying to hold the camera. Right. Maybe I should just use this knife. That's fine, that worked. Okay. Oh, looky look. Let's cut it like a pizza into a wedge. Ooh, so let's do this test. Does it bounce back? Yes, it does. Is it squidging inside? No. No. So that's perfect. I think that's perfect. Well, I'm super happy with that. And now I'm going to eat it. Better just eat it first while I'm on camera. It's delish. It's totally delish. Okay, bye everyone.